Good evening, welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Thelma Okoro. A bomb explosion Thursday occurred at the Jimeta Police Headquarters in Yola, Adamawa State. The blast occurred around 12 p.m. and many people are believed to have been killed in the incident. At first, residents in the area suspected the attack had been carried out by Boko Haram insurgents. However, Commissioner of Police in Adamawa State, Mohammed Ghazali, said the explosions were from bombs recovered from Boko Haram insurgents. Speaking to newsmen in Yola, the state capital, Ghazali said the explosives had been stored in the police command warehouse as exhibits. He noted that most of those affected by the blast were policemen. The explosion also affected the walls of a primary school where some pupils were injured. Officials are yet to release a death toll from the blast. A statement by the acting spokesperson of the Nigerian Army, Colonel Sani Usman, said the terrorists aimed at causing havoc at the internally displaced persons camp located at Dikwa. However, and unknown to the fleeing Boko Haram terrorists, the armed forces were combat ready and repelled the attack. In the process, many members of the sect were killed and vehicles, arms and ammunition were recovered. This incident comes weeks after more than 80 people were killed when a suicide bomber attacked an IDP camp in Dikwa, Borno State, northeast Nigeria. Nigeria's Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Chukwuburutai, says the military has succeeded in defeating Boko Haram. He was speaking during a meeting with some Borno State elders at the Military Command and Control Center in Maiduguri, Borno State, northeast Nigeria. He also assured Nigerians that the troops on the front line are now better equipped for the counter-terrorism war. Burutai said despite pockets of desperate attacks by the Boko Haram insurgents, the Nigerian troops have been making progress. A federal high court in Abuja has dismissed the suit filed by the spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) Olisa Meto against the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and 5 others. The judge, Justice Okonabang, while dismissing the case for lack of diligent prosecution, also ordered Meto to pay 20,000 naira to 4 out of the 6 defendants. Meto had filed the case in January to challenge the grounds of his arrest by the EFCC. However, the judge was surprised that neither Meto nor his lawyers showed up in court today. Now, in another case, the Federal High Court in Abuja adjourned till Wednesday, March 9th, to rule on the no-case submission filed by the PDP spokesperson Olisa Meto. At resumed hearing, the counsel to Meto, Onyechi Bazu, told the court that based on what the prosecution had filed, there was no case submission. He said a point of law which was filed on February 24th should be considered as a reply to the submission of no case made by the defense. But the prosecuting counsel, Silvanus Tahi, said he received a written address and had replied to it. Justice Okon Abang then adjourned the matter for either ruling or judgment on the no case submission.
The highlight number one is that most of you are witnesses to the trial of the presentation of the evidence of the witnesses, at the end of which the defense counsel feel that Chief Olisa Meto has no case to answer on the basis of the fact that the evidence given it does not relate to the charges framed against him, and that the monies alleged to have been seen in his account we are tied by the evidence of the witnesses to specific expenditures relating to PDP and to the image of the president, and most importantly, expenditures of the past general elections. At the end of the evidence of the 8th witness, we felt that he has no case to answer and there was no need for that. So the judge directed that our submissions be in writing, which we did, and we filed it and served the EFCC. And they in turn filed their own reply. And from that their reply, we also saw loopholes on points of law, which we also filed and served them. The judge has adjourned to the 9th of March for 2 things. He said, if he upholds our no-case submission, it means that Chief Olisa Meto will be discharged and acquitted. And if he does not uphold the no-case submission, it means that Chief Olisa Meto will be called upon to open his defense the same day. And he also ruled that in that case, the trial will be on a daily basis.
You know, they filed a no-case submission, arguing before the court that the evidence placed by the prosecution in proof of their case does not warrant them to open their defense or to enter into their defense. On the other hand, we contended and argued before the court that we called 8 witnesses who gave oral evidence. We tendered gamuts of documents, which were all admitted in evidence as exhibits before the court. Now, given the oral and documentary evidence we proffered before this honorable court, it is our belief and argument that it is only fair that they enter into their defense to tell their own side of the story. So on the basis of the responses or the addresses next month, March, for ruling, whichever way it goes. If their no-case submission is overruled, then they will enter into their defense. If it is upheld, they will be discharged and acquitted.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, says the aide-de-camp to former President Goodluck Jonathan was being held on the instructions of the Nigerian Army. Colonel Ojobane Adegbege has been detained since February 11, 2016. Earlier this week, he dragged the EFCC to court to challenge his alleged detention. In the suit filed at the Federal High Court, his counsel, Ogwon Nodges, is claiming 100 million naira damages for his detention, which violated his human rights. Adigbe was arrested in connection with the embezzlement of $2.1 billion meant for the procurement of arms for the war against insurgency. The military personnel reportedly collected cash, $47 million and some euros from the office of the National Security Advisor. Just last month, the Army confirmed the arrest of 12 senior officers currently being interrogated by the EFCC over the involvement in the arms procurement scandal.
The EFCC served us with their counter this morning by 8:40 a.m. We are surprised because the matter is fixed for hearing and for them to file today. So we asked for court indulgence to stand down the matter till 2 hours time. That is precisely 10:30 a.m. and the matter is heard. The surprising thing is that they filed a counter saying that Colonel Ojobane Adegbe is being detained at the pleasure of the Nigerian Army. That's the counter they filed. And that is contrary to all the investigation that went on at the EFCC, the interviews and interrogation. The understanding we had was the EFCC invited Adegbe and they got in touch with Nigeria to release him. So he was brought from abroad at the instance of EFCC. But today in court we are being told that Nigeria Army are the one detaining Colonel Adegbe at the that EFCC has nothing to do with it. That's what we had today in court. And we had to file a a further affidavit to deny that. So the matter is now adjourned to Tuesday for ruling on the enforcement of fundamental human rights. One thing we want you to, what is clear in this matter, that Colonel Adegbe is a serving military officer, is a man who is still in service, and for EFCC to now say the man was arrested at the instance of EFCC, a Nigerian Army, and taken to EFCC for detention. To us, is odd, because we know very well that the Nigerian Army also has competent investigators. They have places for detaining their officers.
Hundreds of protesters stalled commercial activities in Festac, Lagos State, southwest Nigeria, protesting the freedom of their relations imprisoned in China. The placard-carrying protesters, comprising of young men and women, barricaded the busy Festac town road for hours, thereby making vehicular movement really difficult.
I want the government to do something about it. If there is anything they can do to bring those people back here in Nigeria, they can go ahead and do it, because those guys there, they are really suffering. They have been in hell for years. There is no person to intervene on their behalf. So I believe that government have the right to do something about their freedom down there in China. So I'm pleading the government to do something about their freedom.
Those are in prison, most of them are critically ill. Then treat them and then walk through procedure, either to check their problem, know what they commit, and know how to release them. Because some are there, my brother is 10 years now, some are there 15 years, 20 years, doing there for nothing.
Please, help us, help my mother. My mother is dying seriously because of this. My brother is the only son she had. Please, help us to bring the Nigerian that are in China prison. Please, we are begging.
According to the leader of the group Patriotic Citizens Initiative of Nigeria, Osito Semene, the sole mission of the protest is to appeal to the federal government to assist in releasing Nigerians in China prisons to serve their jail term here in Nigeria.
I realize that there is need for the people to request for government intervention, for government to investigate these atrocities, because they have been saying this all the while and we have been keeping quiet. We felt that these people, after all, we are not the one that sent them to China to do whatever they have done. But a situation where you hear that average of 40 Nigerians die every year, these are your citizens. You should ask questions. A situation where you hear that over 8,000 Nigerians are in prison. It is, if a government is a government of the people and for the people and by the people, they should ask questions. So we are asking them to remember that they are ruling a people that make sure that they are there as leaders. They should go and ask Chinese government what is happening to Nigerians. That this is what Nigerian citizens are saying. Is it true? Why are you not giving our people access? This thing happened some years ago, and President Olusegun Obasanjo went to Thailand, signed a treaty with the Thailand government. And today, if you commit an offense in Thailand as a Nigerian, you will be brought back to Nigeria to serve your jail term. If Nigerian citizens are demanding that they don't want to serve jail term in China, that they want to serve it in Nigeria, I believe we have a good relationship with the Chinese authority that will lead us to that agreement.
The Nigerian government says 370.4 billion naira was shared among the federal, state and local governments as revenue for January 2016. Only in December 2015, 387.8 billion naira was shared to the three tiers of government as revenue. The January allocation shows a decrease of 17.4 billion naira. Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, announced this while addressing journalists on the outcome of the Federation Accounts Allocation Committee meeting in Abuja.
The gross statutory revenue, the total available for distribution was 297,291 million. That's the statutory allocation. From this was deducted 7% cost of collection to Nigeria Customs Service, representing 3.225 billion, 4% cost of collection to the Federal Inland Revenue, 2.874 billion, 4% cost of collection to DPR, 1.524 billion, NMPC refund to the federal government, 6.33 billion, and making a net statutory allocation of 283,338. And it was distributed as follows: the federal government 137,473 billion, state government 69.728 billion, local governments 53.757 billion, derivation 22.38 billion. The value-added tax collected was 69.719 billion, from which was deducted a 4% cost of collection, 2.789 billion, giving a net of 66,930 million. And this was shared as follows: the federal government of Nigeria 10.04 billion, state governments 33.46 billion, local governments 23.426 billion. The grand summary 290,961 billion, with a VAT gross of 69,719. So the total distributable was 360,680 billion, to which we added 3.3 billion of exchange gain and the 6.33 refund from NMPC. So the total amount shared 370 billion.388. This compares to last month's total of 387 billion.771 by a negative variance of 17.383 billion. The main reasons for that variance was NMPC cash calls, which reduced the amount available for distribution. The balance on the excess crude account as at 23rd of February is $2.259 billion.
South African telecom firm MTN has withdrawn its suit against the Nigerian Communication Commission (NCC) and has paid 50 billion naira from the 780 billion naira fine. A judge had given MTN until March to try to reach a settlement with Nigerian authorities over the disputed fine. Africa's leading telecoms firm was fined by the Nigerian Communications Commission in October for failing to disconnect 5.1 million unregistered SIM users, prompting weeks of lobbying to reduce the fine. The original fine imposed by NCC was 1.04 trillion naira. After much appeal, the fine was reduced to 780 billion naira. Unsatisfied with this reduction in the fine, MTN filed a fresh suit against NCC. According to a statement by MTN on Wednesday, the sum of 50 billion naira was paid to the federal government as a gesture of good faith and commitment to continued efforts towards an amicable resolution of the fine. The Nigerian Air Force has appealed to commanders of the force to imbibe the culture of self-reliance and prudent management of resources, as well as promoting the core values of integrity, excellence and service delivery. This approach, it says, will reposition the Nigerian Air Force into a highly professional and disciplined force through capacity-building initiatives. Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, made this call at the maiden Nigerian Air Force Commanders Retreat held in Abuja.
I have always believed that professionalism, discipline, and focusing on excellence are key ingredients of mission accomplishment. It is in line with this thought that I crafted my vision, which is to reposition the Nigerian Air Force into a highly professional and disciplined force through capacity building initiatives for effective, efficient, and timely employment of air power in response to Nigeria's national security imperatives. To ensure the attainment of this vision, key drivers were set out and disseminated across board as a working guide at all levels in implementing policies and instructions. I implore you to adequately acquaint yourselves with the key drivers to ensure we all are operating on the same frequency. In the past 7 months or thereabouts, we have embarked on some projects aimed at shoring up our operational, logistic, and administrative infrastructure that will enable units to function optimally while ensuring that personnel and their families live in relative comfort. I'm glad to state here that since then, our operational capacity has greatly improved, as evident in the successes recorded in our numerous operations in the country. Additionally, we have continued in our drive to provide comfortable level accommodation and a healthy working environment for our personnel, so as to enhance their productivity.
In a bid to boost tourism in the country, the Lagos State government says it will partner with the federal government to redesign and modernize the National Museum at Onikon in Lagos, southwest Nigeria. Officials say the collaboration will make the National Museum an international tourist attraction and historical hub. Governor Akinwumi Ambode announced the decision following a request by the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, during a courtesy visit to the governor at the Lagos House in Ikeja on Thursday. He said the upgrading of the museum is in line with the overall objective of the state government to collaborate with the federal government in order to develop infrastructure and improve security to boost tourism in the state. Since assuming office, the Muhammadu Buhari-led government has emphasized its commitment to developing the tourism sector as part of efforts to diversify the Nigerian economy. Still on tourism, Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed has called on the D8 Organization for Economic Development to loosen the issuance of visas as a deliberate policy to boost tourism among member states. The minister made the call on the heels of the resolve by the D8 to prioritize tourism development among its members. The D8 members comprise of Nigeria, Egypt, Malaysia, Indonesia, Iran, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Turkey. Lai Mohammed said the D8 group cannot grow trade, or even tourism if there is a visa restriction. He also identified the shortage of infrastructure, access to tourism sites, preservation and conservation of cultural heritages, perception and failure to involve the locals in the tourism sector as one of the challenges confronting the development of tourism in Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll look at business and international stories. Stay tuned.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching the Funny White Man Show, which is the biggest, the brightest, and the most entertaining show in Africa.
Funny white man, funny white man, funny white man, but this way you talk, it's too much. Give me 5,000 man, that's you. It's too much. So you get it like, make you move along the street. Ah, yeah, me should like there, I'm going girl. You know, my own people, actually. Yeah, fine, it's fun. I enjoy it. And I'm one of those very few. I'm forever taking it personal. I will listen 160 million Nigerians are corrupt. How? My brother, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, but it's a growth, and this is the time to build business. I know the pitfalls, I know what to do and what not to do. But there are months where you get business and months.
You know how we do, how we train them. We do the way you do.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching Trending Matters on the Funny White Man Show. Of course, they will bring you trending issues just to entertain and tickle your fancy.
Welcome back. You're watching TV360 News now. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) has called on Nigeria to lift foreign exchange curbs and let the naira reflect market forces more closely. The body also called for more fiscal discipline and structural reform to bolster growth. IMF's demand comes days after President Muhammadu Buhari rejected a naira devaluation and backed hefty restrictions imposed by the CBN to prevent a collapse of the naira. Nigeria, which is Africa's biggest economy and top oil producer, has been hit hard by the slump in oil revenues, its lifeblood. IMF said currency curbs had significantly affected parts of the private sector, and the economic outlook for Africa's top oil producer was challenging. The views of the IMF are relevant as Nigeria wants to borrow from the World Bank to help fund a budget deficit of 3 trillion naira. Nigeria's naira weakened against the dollar on the parallel market on Thursday as speculators took advantage of the recent gains to mop up dollars, creating fresh scarcity. The naira was quoted at 350 to the dollar on the unofficial market, weaker than its 300 per dollar close the previous day. The official interbank rate remained at 197 to the dollar at the close of trading. But the change operator said, quote, hoarding and speculative activities returned to the market, pushing down the naira's value again, days after President Muhammadu Buhari rejected the devaluation of the naira. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana has filed a suit at the Federal High Court in Abuja seeking an order to restrain the CBN from allowing market forces to determine the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar. In his suit, the senior advocate of Nigeria also asked the court to direct the CBN to stop the use of the United States dollar as a legal tender in Nigeria. Falana in the suit alleged that the CBN's monetary policy had led to a situation where too much naira was made to chase a few dollars, as this has led to a rise in inflation, closure of factories, and high level of unemployment. Crude oil prices fell on Thursday as downward pressure from global overproduction and slowing economic growth outweighed demand. The international Brent crude benchmark was trading at $34.07 a barrel, while U.S. futures were down 36 cents at $31.79 a barrel. Oil has slid from more than $100 a barrel in mid-2014, pressured by excess supply and a decision by OPEC to abandon its traditional role of cutting production alone to boost oil prices. Super Eagles coach Sunday Olise has defended his YouTube rant, saying he did not insult Nigerians but instead blamed analysts for being behind the bias in the way they devote the information to the public. The 40-year-old has been under severe criticism after he released a YouTube video where he criticized his critics, describing them as, quote, insane. He also seemed to hit out at his ex-colleagues, challenging them to come and take over the Eagles' job if they feel he's not good enough for the job. In a fresh interview with sports journalist Collins Udo, Olise insisted that he did not insult Nigeria, saying the fans had been misled by analysts. Olise's next match in charge of the Eagles is a crucial AFCON qualifier against Egypt next month. UEFA President Michel Platini has vowed to fight to the end as he seeks to upturn a 6-year FIFA suspension. The Frenchman was originally banned 8 years following an investigation by the Ethics Committee, which revealed a 2 million Swiss francs disloyal payment made by Blatter to Platini. He has appealed the suspension to the FIFA, the Appeals Committee, and has reduced his ban to 2 years. By 2 years, Platini, who is seeking a return to UEFA before the start of the Euro 2016 in his home country, is still not satisfied by the ruling and has confirmed he has appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sports. That's all we have on news now. Thank you very much for watching. I am Thelma Okoro.